when she spoke. She sounded like Mickey Mouse. Really, it was all about the programming. It was wrong. So she does not sound like Mickey Mouse. But after that, I went through an intensive speech therapist, and I went to an audiologist to really comprehend what I'm trying to understand hearing, because I'm hearing new things every day. So it took about 6 months, every other day going to the doctor's office to train myself to understand and speak and try to collect as much information as possible, because again, I made the decision for myself, so I have to commit to it and really go for it. So it took a lot of practice. I'm still practicing today. I mean, from time to time I hear new things, and I have to ask my friends around me or my family to ask them what is that sound. So it's a learning experience, so I really enjoy it most of the time.
I have another phenomena. Sorry.
What'd you say? I missed what you said.
I have another one, but I wanted to give some other people's turn.
Okay. So a medical student right now. What helped me decide for me to get my cochlear implant? I think for that it was a lot of research for me and meeting other people who has cochlear implant. So it was I think the doctor can say one thing, and of course they're going to say, get it. So I don't really trust my doctor. So I make sure I go to other sources, because, I mean, the doctor, that's his or her perspective. So I prefer to have multiple perspectives to understand what really goes into getting a cochlear implant. So yeah, this is a lot of research. I mean, learning what the doctors say, but also meeting other people who experience it. Those who have cochlear implant and those who don't have cochlear implant, and figuring out if it's best for that person. So for me, it's figuring out if it's best for me. And I know many other people who many of my best friends got cochlear implant right after I got my cochlear implant, because they saw how well I was doing. But their downfall is they only focus on me and not really on other people. So unfortunately for some of them, it was not successful. So it's really, you never know what will happen. So getting enough information that you can get, the better. So they can understand the consequence, good and bad. So to get information. Did I answer your question? Good. That was a good one, by the way. It's so quiet.
Quiet all of them.
It's okay, it's late at night. Yeah. I'll ask my one. So did you say that you had speech therapy before you had your cochlear implant?
Mm-hmm. I did. I had a speech. I went to public school, so mainstream school. So there would be a little resource for students who are deaf. And we were all required to take speech therapists. We had a sign language interpreter as well, but the speech therapist is the opportunity for us to understand the different sound that we make. So growing up, yes, I had a speech therapist to really try and speak and understand how I pronounce things. Most of the time, I mean, I know I have an accent right now because I never could hear myself. So whatever is coming out, I'm hoping it sounds okay. But I mean, yes, I had a speech therapist. I guess my entire childhood growing up at school, because it was part of a requirement. So yeah, and it helped a lot. To, again, going back to total communication, just really taking advantage of what's available and take it from there.
I'm studying linguistics right now, and I want to go to grad school to be a speech language pathologist. And so were they trying to teach you lip reading and other, I'm just curious about what they were trying to accomplish through your speech therapy.
I think from what I remember, because over time I had 5 different speech teachers, and all of them have a different methods of teaching. And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is how much speech can influence my writing, because I have a tendency of writing what I can hear, which is not much. So, and for doing speech therapy, not only it allows me to understand the importance. I can't say that word right now. It's been a long day. And understanding all the little syllabus and the vocabulary, and being able to understand how important it is. So that's one of the biggest things that I learned doing speech therapy, is being able to understand what I'm writing, translate to spoken language. Because again, going back to sign language, we don't always include every single vocabulary that we are trying to say. And there's ASL for sign language, but I tend to use SEE, which is Sign Exact English, because I want to be able to capture every single word the person is saying, while ASL is getting more of a getting the full picture, but not necessarily including every single vocabulary. So there's a lot of things that go into it. I think I'm talking in circle right now. If I'm answering your question, I'm thinking about it and trying to remember. And it also helps with the lip reading. Because we do speech, but we're also understanding how our lip move. So if a person doesn't know sign language, we kind of fall back to lip reading. So, and be careful when you're talking around deaf people, because they will lip read when they're saying and then say something nice. I'll have to think about that more, actually. Asking me a hard question tonight.
Sorry.
When you got the implant, what was your favorite? Do you remember what your favorite thing to listen to was?
I remember when I got my cochlear implant early on, I went on a trip to New Mexico through Habitat for Humanity, and it was my first time with my cochlear implant, and it's a situation where I'm not familiar with, and with these group of people I did not know, and they didn't know I was deaf until I met them. So it was like, hey. But I remember at that time it was springtime, and one of the sounds I heard was frog croaking. Yeah, I never heard that before, and I was really curious, and it became one of my favorite sounds. And that was like 2009? No, actually it's 2005. Oh, I'm old. 2005. No, probably baby by then. How old are you all?
What was that? 21.
19.
And like my sister age. But yeah. I think from there I started listening to music. I listened to opera first because the one thing about my cochlear implant is I only hear one side and my other side is completely deaf. And with that in mind, I don't have a sense of depth in sound. So everything is really flat to me, but I cannot really pick or differentiate the sound. So I prefer to hear the voice rather than the music. If I had it in my way, I would prefer to listen to music without any of the instrument. I just want to hear hear voice singing, so I can understand what this person is saying. But when you add instrument to it, it gets very boggy. So, my favorite musician right now is Adele. She has a really very streamlined voice, so I could really understand her. And she's one of the musicians that I can understand with music because she's very confident in her voice. So I'm excited for her new CD.
Yeah, I have a question.
I see you.
Well, what got you into fashion?
Funny story behind that. I was not interested in fashion until 2008 because prior to that I was doing architecture and I was getting my BA in architecture, and I realized, I guess one thing about me, I'm a control freak. I like to work on things from start to finish. And for architecture, I'm able to design, draft, and do small model, but I have to send my diagram to a contractor and let them do the work. I didn't like that. They're taking control over there. And then I decided to I went to NC State and we have a string studio where students have an opportunity to take other courses besides your major. And it was my last year, I was a senior. And I wanted to take something easy just to finish off my semester. And I took fashion because I've seen it in magazines, they look pretty. How hard can it be? It was really difficult. Taking that studio really shifted my entire direction. And it was my last semester as a senior. And when I graduated, I was like, I'm gonna do fashion. I just went to grad school in Chicago and graduated from the grad school in 2012. So it's only been 3 years into the field, so it's been really busy. Any other question?
So did you get the idea of 3D printing from architecture?
The idea for 3D printing actually came from architecture. Because when I was in my senior year, we just got a new 3D printing machine. So student was using it for building not model, but little model for their critique. And I thought it was really fascinating, but at the same time it was very expensive. So I didn't have a budget for that. So it was something that I always wanted to try to do, but I didn't have the money. And thankfully for Project Runway, they gave the designer the opportunity to design the collection, and we got the funding of $9,000 to make a collection. So, and that was when I remember when Heidi said that he had $9,000 to make a collection, I was like, 3D printing? So, and I mean, remembering, I'm trying to think how much I spent on the 3D printing. I spent about $4,000 on 3D printing for that. Actually, let's make it 6 for the collection. So I spent $6,000 on 3D printing and only $3,000 for the fabric. It's like, yeah, it's crazy. It's really expensive, but back then it was expensive. It's actually getting cheaper now because it's becoming more common and they're printing in different material. I mean, they even print in silver and gold right now, which is really nice, but it's like a couple $100,000 right now, but it's pretty cool.
Have you ever heard of the company MakerBot?
Have a company, what the name
What
again?
was it again?
MakerBot. It's a 3D printing company.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I met them at a 3D printing convention. And yeah, there's so many companies out there that is doing 3D printing, and MakerBot is one of them. So, yeah, they're pretty cool. I like the brand and what they're doing right now. But it's hard to pick a favorite because there's so many companies out there doing different things. Like one is doing 3D printing with candies. So we're using sugar and then they 3D print and you take it out and eat it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I know MakerBot is trying to make it pretty affordable. My uncle works for the company, and they make these kits that you can build at home, and they're trying to make it more mainstream.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I read an article the other day, and they say within 5 years, they say that 3D printing is the same thing as DVD. Well, any of you old enough to remember those VHS? I'm shocking. They say that 3D printing is the next DVD kind of thing that is going to take over every single household within 5 years. So it's kind of creepy but cool. But you can start 3D printing everything at home. So if you see an earring or necklace, just click on the computer and it will print it out and put it on and go out and do work. So it's really fascinating.
People are coming in. Everyone always has a bad experience. What is your experience? Either from when you were deaf.
Say that again, I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Everyone has a bad experience. Have you ever had one either when you were deaf or when you had your implants in, or both?
Yeah, I did actually. I mean, I think I had a good and bad experience. I think for deaf people that I meet that are not familiar with cochlear implant are intimidated by the technology. So at the same time, they're misinformed. So it's all about educating people. And I mean, everyone has their own reason, and I respect that. So, but I wouldn't see it as a bad experience, but as a learning experience. I mean, nobody is perfect, so you can't please everyone. So the only person that you have to please is yourself.
What do you think is like a common misconception that people have about deaf people or deaf culture, the thing that you think is most misunderstood?
I think the more common assumption is probably the oldest assumption, and it's deaf and dumb. And I still get that to this day. So I do meet people from time to time, and they'll be like, "We can talk. I thought it was to be done." Like, no. So, I mean, that's the most common assumption these days. And again, it's all about educating them and just really giving them the information they have. I mean, maybe in some situation, they don't have access to the information to really learn about other people's culture. So everybody is from a different background, and we should have to take an opportunity to educate them, and they can make their own judgment after they have been informed. So, yeah, it's probably the most common one. Any final questions before my bedtime? I'm old.
So I remember seeing online that you're also a professor at North Carolina State. How would you say, like, I guess your experiences either as a deaf person or also your time on Project Runway have like affected your teaching style?
I mean, it definitely made my student very motivated, and they know they have a very high expectation for them. I mean, I don't know, it's surreal for me in a way, because I was a professor before and after Project Runway. So it's kind of interesting to see how students perceive me, because I've always been the quiet one, so I like to sit back and listen and give feedback when I need to, because I don't like to talk. I guess. I think being a professor influenced me more on Project Runway than Project Runway influenced me as a professor. And what I mean by that is when I went on the show, I knew that I had to be professional, because my student is going to be watching me. So I knew my student is going to be watching me, so I did not want to make a fool of myself or embarrass them, because I'm their professor. So I wanted to treat everyone with respect and show how people can carry themselves even in the most difficult environment. Like Project Runway, I have a lot of gray beard from that, gray hair. But it's just being able to maintain the pressure and showing respect to other people. So in a way, kind of showing the student that you can be on a crazy TV show like Project Runway, but it doesn't mean that you have to be crazy too. Yes, I think, yeah, did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Any last question?
Would you say that
Or
you're
2 questions?
do you guys? Okay. I asked a lot of questions.
It's okay.
Okay, which I was gonna go off of her question. Do you think that your students were the motivation for not being that drama? Everyone on Project Runway is filled with drama. So do you think that your students were kind of that motivation to stay away from that? Because I noticed that when things got heated, you just took off your implant. Like, I'm done. I don't need this.
I do have a couple of dramatic students, so I just put them in their place. But at the same time, everybody has their own personality and how they're interacting with other people. Again, I'm working in a creative environment, so many of the students that I have express differently from each other, whether they like it or not. But at the same time, they are taught to handle it in the best manner possible, like constructive criticism. So we have critique all the time. From an outsider, it may look like a lot of drama and hair pulling, fighting, those kind of thing. But if you look inside, it's not. It's just like critiquing and being honest. I mean, I never say anything like, this is pretty, this is beautiful. I never say that. I've always told them point blank whether it looks great or it looks like crap. Sorry for the language. But they take it in consideration and improve themselves and just work hard. Because again, it's themselves they're working on. Because once they graduate, they're on their own. So I want them to be a strong designer that have their own opinion on their work and become a leader in a way. I talk a lot, do I?
So do I, apparently.
Do you want to ask?
Do you have another question?
I guess.
Yeah, I see somebody moving her hand.
So we just have one last question, I guess.
What advice would you give someone who's starting?
You're gonna have to be louder. I can't hear you.
What advice would you give someone who's just starting to learn ASL?
Say it again.
Do you want to get closer?
Okay.
There
What
you go, that's
advice
better.
would you give someone who's just starting to learn ASL?
Just communicate with other people as much as you can, and maybe there'll be a silent supper or a deaf gathering that's happening in your area, because I highly recommend you to meet other people who are deaf, because from time to time they're very open to talking to other people to learn their language. Because I love sign language. It's my number one language. If I had it in my way, I would require everybody to do sign language. But many people are very passionate about ASL, so I would highly recommend you to, have a ASL club like you have right now, which is wonderful. So thank you for that. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity. I actually founded my ASL club when I was in middle school, so that's awesome. But again, just really meet all of these different people and check your local listing, or I'm sure there's an online blog or something for upcoming deaf event that you can go into. I know that when I was living in Chicago, I went to this thing called Deaf Coffee. It happened every month. And I go to that every time, and from time to time we'll meet new people that is just learning how to do sign language. It is really important to see how deaf people interact with each other, because it's not just ASL, it's the whole body, it's your face, the way that you move, whether you're happy or you're angry. There's a lot of different body type and how you are expressing yourself. So, yeah, maybe for the next ASL club, you should go to silent supper or deaf coffee. Just look it up and you'll meet some incredible people. That's my recommendation. Welcome.
I can send, this is Robbie, the interpreter. I'll let you know there is a New Jersey deaf coffee chat. I can let you know.
Yeah.
Alright, cool. Well,
Before we finish, this is an interpreter talking again. Do you mind if we take a screenshot selfie? Is that okay?
Go for it.
I wanted them to have that.
okay.
That's yours?
Alright, I'm gonna
She's
try
gonna
and
screenshot.
I can do it on mine too.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, that might work better
Screenshot.
actually, so we can all sit. Okay, do you want to do that?
I'm gonna do this, okay. Here we go, okay, everybody smile. Okay, wait, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Hands up. Yeah, thank you.
First time.
Okay.
Here we go, now we got it. Okay, I'm gonna give you 1, 2, 3, okay? Wait. I'll send it to you.
Really, really
People
nice.
have eaten tonight.
Thank you for being video chatting with us. It was really nice having you.
Thank you again, and you all have a wonderful night and be safe. Homework.
And Justin, anytime you come to New York, you can contact me. I'll interpret for you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.
You too.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.